Hey guys, welcome back to the Geography Academy. Remember, this video is just a small part of a much larger course that's available below if you just follow the links and instructions. Okay, this is environmental management, and 12.4 is the degraded environments or environmental degradation. So the land pollution we'll start off with first. Looking at a couple of ways that this can happen. Industrial waste can be the first one there, with heavy metals, solvents, acids, biodegradable compounds. So these can create and seep into the soil and create pollution there that is too toxic then for plants to grow. Even a light amount of any of these industrial changes then can change the pH level or the acidity in the soil, which is enough to kill off the decomposers, the primary producers, which are like the plants and the trees, and therefore any of the animals that feed or use those as their habitats. We can see then industrial waste, we'll talk about an air pollution causing then acidic rain as well, which is going to land on the soil and damage the land also. Agricultural activities then are pretty harsh for the soil. They're supposed to be like added in there. So things like chemical fertilizers are added in there to add the natural nutrients back to the system. And when doing that, then this creates, a nutritious soil again, which allows for plants to get the nutrients that it needs to grow. However, too much of this and a reliance on it means that like during periods where it can be over applied, or also we can see it then with the wash off as well, effect of that, it can be pretty bad for it. And too much of certain fertilizers, chemicals like nitrogen, phosphorus, or magnesium can be too much for the soil and actually alter the composition and the acidity, and this creates then maybe more infertile soil. So we have to be careful with that. Pesticides and herbicides are basically there to reduce the conditions in order for those to grow or to thrive in the area, which is kind of thinking about like poisoning the pests, for example, and reducing the amount there. So those chemicals are not good for the ground and not naturally good when it leaches into the groundwater store, when it washes off into other areas and other ecosystems surrounding it. That might not just be agricultural land, but other like natural environments that are connected to it there as well. So in that case, then we can see too much then will cause the destruction of ecosystems nearby and reduce the fertility of the soil potentially. We see urbanization and construction. So that's just taking away, like especially greenfield sites as an example. So with urbanization, I guess we're talking about the increase of the population of the city. But this brings about what we would say is urban sprawl, which is the expansion of the city out into a wider area. So that sort of expansion then is going to be critical then and will cause a lot of pollution. So you're taking away the natural vegetation or farmland there. This is reducing the land's capacity then to hold decomposers, plants, reduces the capacity to store carbon, to be a part of the water cycle as well, the natural water cycle. And we're replacing it then with concrete impermeable surfaces, which permanently then reduces the growth of plants from underneath. There's no photosynthesis getting through, and it's often impermeable, so the water then doesn't pass through either as much. Urban sprawl then and the construction of these is going to cause a huge amount of air and noise pollution in the local areas as well, and this reduces then the value of the land then. So this is often, because it's developed in this way, this is often then never changed. So sites can go into dereliction, for example, and not be used, but it's very rare that sites in an urban space is turned back into forest and natural land. Waste disposal, definitely landfills are used quite a lot as waste disposal, and this is created an area where just generic waste is thrown in there. In a lot of areas and countries around the world, they're not separating any of their rubbish. Everything's going into one, and this can include then toxic, dangerous chemicals, flammables, and areas then with just unconsolidated amount of waste. Now some of this can decompose over time naturally, but others decomposes over a much greater time, and some of them then will actually create a toxic development in the local area as well. So it is not something that is going to be good for any of the environment in the area. Mining and quarrying then is something similar, is just removing that topsoil completely and getting in at the minerals that are underneath it. So this creates a huge amount of devastation to the local area. It can also change other factors. For example, in regions where there's permafrost, it can increase the thawing of permafrost and release gases out of that area and change the local ecosystems as well. Tailing then is the residue left behind from the quarrying and the mineral extraction process, and this can be left behind and cause lots of water and land pollution into the areas. Concentrations then of heavy metals, for example, like mercury spills, leads to very long-term contamination and has been known in areas like the Amazon to harm indigenous communities and the biodiversity of the area. Deforestation for any of these factors is removing the trees. We are then decreasing the ability of interception and the ability for the trees to regulate the water cycle. We increase the amount of surface runoff because now we've decreased the soil's ability